You've learned a lot in life, and your passion is public speaking, whether it's on a stage, online, voiceovers, a podcast, a trainer, and you've been looking for info on how to take it to the next level. This is Speaker Show and Tell. We're a weekly show that features interviews with successful speakers and experts, and you'll get tips, tricks, and strategies to improve your speaking skills and the business of speaking. You'll get actionable advice you can use right now, and you'll get inspiration from pros who've done it. Pros that have gone through the struggles just like you and created massive results. Let's do this. Welcome to Speaker Show and Tell. And now your hosts, Eric Lofholm and Sabrina Gibson.
Hi, welcome to Speaker Show and Tell. This is Sabrina Gibson, and I'm so excited for you to be here. Oh my goodness, we have a great show. And as you notice, Eric is out. He's doing some great training today. So I'm on my own here with some amazing guests. I'm so excited. Today, we're going to be talking about mindset. And I thought this was really interesting. I found some statistics around this, and I'm sure you guys know that 68.5 of all statistics are made up on the spot, but this actually came from a report. I thought this was interesting. It talked about the fear of public speaking, and it said around 15 million people deal with glossophobia. I'd never heard that before, but it's called the fear of public speaking on a daily basis. That means 75% of the population has a fear of public speaking. So if you think about that, those numbers come down to about 2 million people or 200 million people feel nervous about talking to others. So how do we get all these professional speakers and do we all just not have that anxiety? I know I've felt terrified sometimes being on a stage, and I don't have any problem obviously speaking, but I think it's normal for us. And in our business, in our speaking business, sometimes we can get really stuck. And I know that a lot of times they say your attitude will shift your altitude. Your attitude will shift your altitude, meaning that if you believe it, then you can do it, right? And a lot of times we get stuck where we can't hit that next plateau or we can't reach a different success in our business. And so really what we're talking about today is the mindset. And even though like the fear of public speaking is real and it's there, I thought this was interesting. The number one fear most Americans have is public speaking. And the number two is death. And Jerry Seinfeld put it this way. He said that means the average person would be okay attending a funeral, but they would feel better in the casket than giving the eulogy. So anyway, it just tells you that there's a lot of fears out there. And sometimes those fears can actually hold us back in business as well. And it may not have anything to do with the speaking part, but we're going to be talking about mindset today. And our first guest is just absolutely amazing. I totally adore this guy. I've known him for a long time. I think I'm going to have to start making up how old I am. Like maybe I started when I was 10 because I know that I've known him for about 20 years. But this is Dr. Brian Grossman, and he is a charismatic international speaker, coach, and he's a PhD. He's conducted over 2,000 seminars and speeches. And what he does is he helps emerging and experienced leaders shift their mindset and their leadership style. And his consulting and trainings will help you break out of emotional traps and stop repeating the same relationship, business, and personal communication mistakes. So I am so excited to have you here. Welcome, Dr. Brian. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are in the world watching us. And I am also excited to be here, and I will share first tip before you even ask a question, a little bit nervous. And for all of you, don't let nervousness or anxiety be the stopping point. It's normal. And if you use that anxiety to your advantage through preparing and practicing, you'll get through it. It'll be fine. And we'll talk more about that as we get through today. So just
I love that
and
because
relax.
I love that you say that. It's like every show's slightly different for me. Like this morning, I felt really relaxed. I think because I don't know, I just do. Um, this morning, and even though like today was a little bit crazy, like I was running late, and it's odd not having Eric here. Like it's crazy how much of a difference it makes with him being here, because when you have two people, it kind of helps, like one can pick up for the other, so there's a little bit more pressure. But I felt pretty relaxed today. But there are shows that I do start that I can feel it. I can feel the anxiety in me. So I'm excited to talk with you, because people do, they especially when like the first speaking engagement, oh my goodness, I was a wreck. So that's my question to you, is that, so someone gets picked for the gig, why are they anxious about it? What happens for them?
It's all the unknowns. I believe we want to please, we want to get great reviews, we want to get rebooked, we want the audience or participants to love us. And that fear can just grab hold of you, especially if it's your first or second or only third gig, and even if it's a small or a large audience. So I remember when I was hired by the seminar company, the first time I had a group, it was 10 people. I was anxious, but it was fine. And we had a workbook. When I had 150 people the first time, and it was 2 days, I remember Coach John Wooden would have his coach notes or program rolled up like a little stick. Well, I had rolled up my workbook so much I could hardly open it up, and I was pointing at people in the audience as participants to call on them with that. And at the first break, somebody came up to me and said, "You're not going to hit us with that, are you?" And I laughed. I thought, okay, I got to put it down. And so the anxiety made me speak really fast, but as I got into it, slow it down. So that anxiety, I can't emphasize enough. Just over prepare. When you know your stuff, you're golden. And you're to lower that anxiety, just remember, why did they pick you? They picked you for a reason. And even if it's a business meeting, you're asked to speak up because someone trusts your intellect. And so go with that and be yourself. If you just prepare and be yourself, you got this, and the anxiety will lower. And one more fast tip: drink water. You're going to dry out that anxiety. All of a sudden, you're going to be like, you reduce your anxiety. And if you sip some water, you'll be golden. So we'll go with that.
I love that. A lot of times I've heard just taking deep breaths, because it'll help release that anxiety within us, because we take a breath and then we don't exhale, and then we're like, hey, everybody, I know for me, I always do a lot of deep breathing. It seems like through the whole day. I know the probably one of the most nerve-wracking experiences I've ever had as a speaker was speaking on T. Harv Eker's stage. And that is a nerve wracking, it's the mental, like, do I deserve to be here? Or it's the whole, maybe they might think I'm a fraud kind of a thing, which I knew my stuff. I owned it. I had practiced like 1,000 times, but I had this massive anxiety, almost anxiety attack before. And I just remember all day just breathing really, really deep. But once I got on stage, I was fine. But before, man, before, I was kind of a wreck. So what happens when that? I mean, what's going on with us in our minds? Like, you're a mindset coach. What kind of advice would you give to me or a speaker that they land the gig and then maybe they're afraid of what might happen? I know there's a lot of things that are going through our heads, but how do you overcome that?
One quick question for you: when you walk up on that stage, what's your biggest fear? What's your concern?
That's interesting. I think mine was just like, maybe I'm a fraud, or I don't deserve to be here, is kind of
Okay.
or who am I? Like I remember like Alex Mandozian, and I mean, there was a whole bunch of people that were on that stage, and I thought, well, who am I to be on this stage?
Who are you?
Yeah.
That's it. No, I want you to ask. I want everybody to ask. I mean, one of my favorite mantras for people when I'm doing coaching, training, and even I do part-time therapy still, is, who are you? Who are you at your core? What gets you up in the morning? And then, who do you serve? So who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for? You got asked to go up there. You got asked to speak at the meeting. Grab onto that. Now, I would be, T. Harv Eker, Tony Robbins, you or Eric Lofholm hold this big event. I'm going to be nervous and anxious. However, right before I walk up, I am going to do that deep breath. I know who I am. I know why they picked me, and I know my stuff. I will say I rarely do a never, but I'm going to say never take for granted you got this. If you just prepare, if you rehearse, you'll be great. And then, as you said, when you take that deep breath, when you're on stage or you're in a small meeting, learn to breathe without them hearing you. So right now I'm breathing, but you don't hear me go. And then a really cool technique is if the anxiety picks up, you're not sure why you're there, ask a question to the participants. What do you want to know about this? And then go into, I was asked to speak about, and then you'll go right into your knowledge base. So go with your strength, take a breath, and you got this. And as you start talking, the anxiety will lower. And you know what? It's okay to have notes. I still have 3x5 cards. Well, now we have all sorts of teleprompter technology, but here's what you don't want to. You don't want to walk out on stage and because if you know your stuff, all I want to know is time frame, let the clock tick. And then if I have the teleprompter and I've practiced with that and where it's going to be placed, perfect. If not, I know my stuff and I'll look at my notes and just keep us on track. No one's going to write in their evaluation, it looked at cards. They're going to look at, was staring at a rat on the stage or didn't pay attention to me or something like that. So if you make eye contact, you've got this.
It's interesting you say that because I do know that a couple times, I used to just speak on what I know, and which is, I think, the key, right? Like you can't be an imposter if you're speaking on what you know. So that eliminates the fraud factor, right? But the other thing too is, I know for me, like I get in my head, like, well, everybody knows this. And why would they want to listen to this, right? Because there's a lot of people teaching what you do, but what I'm always reminded of is that the way that I teach is so uniquely different than anybody else out there, and my strategies and my techniques are so uniquely different because I'm uniquely different, so and I always say, like, there's not a person on the face of the planet that I can't learn from. I learn from my kids all the time. Even when they were little, it was like I was learning so much from them, and I could have been like, well, I know so much more than you. So how do you handle that? Like, how do you really own your expertise, do you think, Dr. Brian?
Two things: get bad feedback that you came off as arrogant, which happened to me.
Oh, no.
And then when you know your stuff, bring exactly what you just said, Sabrina. What's your uniqueness? So I used to copy, like Eric trained me on how to sell back of the room books and tapes when I was with the seminar company. And then I learned from you about different selling techniques. So I got to take that and bend it. And then here's the mindset. So rather than imposter syndrome and going the other extreme, I am your God and I know this stuff and I'm the expert, it's what do the participants need to know? Now, I remember in college when I went to Firewalk with Me. That's how long ago I went to Tony Robbins' 3-day weekend right before I started grad school. And it was right after dinosaurs were extinct. So when that happened, my confidence boost, I got right through grad school, but Tony tried to trademark motivation. And when I saw that in an article, I started laughing. It's like, good luck with that one. But he coined different terms. And that's what Eric does. And that's what you bring your uniqueness to the table, even though I've heard the concept before. So one of my favorite things from Eric, the purpose of a lead is to get a lead. My family's bugging me as I'm launching into more full-time entrepreneurship. Well, did the coaching clients sign up with you? And I said, no, they booked a consult. The purpose of a lead is to have a lead. And I tease my family all the time. I walk to the front door and I open it and I say, come here, look, hurry up. And they'll come over and look and they say, no one's there. I said, exactly. No one drove to 29 Palms and say, Dr. Brian, we finally found you. Got to put yourself out there. And so the mindset part is this: have the anxiety and fear, know your stuff, but what's your unique spin on that? What on your topic can you bring to the table? Yeah, we've heard it before, but you're going to put a different spin. So my spin is know your stuff. Who are you? Why do people want to hear from you? And manage your feelings. Become a master of your emotions. Because when you do that, your expertise will come through. It's this, we let our emotions run away and run the show. And so my mantra is my feelings are temporary. My feelings will pass through me. I am not my feelings. I am me. I am doctor, speaker, trainer, coach, father, grandfather, husband. I have many parts, but at my core, I am the guy to help you take a step up in mindset and behavior. That's my expertise. That's what's driven me since I was a teenager. Help people take a step up. I've just finally discovered how I'm going to do that. And so when I still get out on stage or get asked, I'm nervous on a free consult. I have 20 post-it notes on my laptop screen right next to me so I don't forget something. But then what I've learned from you, what I've learned from Tony, what I've learned from Eric, I got to listen to you. Because if I listen to you, then I could twist my knowledge base to see if I'm the right guy. I just did a free consult for weight loss with some guy, and I gave him one tip: don't eat in the car. You're a salesperson. I said, when you go in to meet with a family, you don't think there's donut dust because you went like this. They see it, the sale's over. It's over. They will use the excuse that there was food on your shirt. So don't eat in the car. I said, if you don't eat in the car, you're going to lose weight just doing that. And he said, I have to, and I have to, and I have to. And I gave him one more tip. And I said, you know what? I understand where you're coming from. It's okay. Maybe I'm not the guy for you, because that's where I'm going to start. And I said, I'm not here to argue with you. Now, let's say you're on stage and you get cornered. There's always the dart thrower. I mastered this from Eric, but then you have to hear it 1,000 different ways because I'm really good. My dad was from Brooklyn. I can cut you down emotionally with one little sentence, 4 words, and you're crying. For some reason, you write a negative review and I don't get asked back. Who knew? So take a breath and I say, wow, great question. Can you say that one more time so I make sure I heard you right? And then my brain can go, how am I going to answer this without a verbal attack? And so when you get asked a question that you
because
don't know,
we were talking about hecklers and on a different show, and it can be really intimidating. I think that's what people, I think that's part of the fear of speaking, right? You think that people are going to throw tomatoes and, or whatever. I don't know. Back in the day, I guess I threw things, but, like you're just worried about people following you out to the parking lot with flamethrowers and pitchforks. But the reality of it is that most people are decent. They've come to really learn. You're in an environment that's safe, but our mind, and I love this emotional control. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, because that emotional control can really eat us up. One of the things that and I'll just be really honest here. We're about ready to launch a new product online, and I've been out of the game for 5 years because I took time off, to handle my mom and then grieve my mom. Right. And so coming back to it, it felt like especially in technology, you feel like you've missed in 5 years, you feel like you've missed the world. But in reality, it didn't take me that long to get caught back up. But I still was in that mindset of what do I possibly have that would be of value to somebody that's not already out there. Right. And one of the things that really helped me was, as we started putting these things together, I started pulling testimonials, and I started having one-on-ones, and you and I had a one-on-one. And it was just so nice to hear, like, over and over and over again, the lives that had been changed as a result of what I taught. And I think that's one of the things that people forget. And they forget to ask for the testimonial. So if you haven't done that, I'm going to highly recommend that be your mindset. Go ask people what you've done for them, because that for me made a huge difference. But I want to talk about the emotional control a little bit with you. I think that's a huge piece, because our imagination can seem like reality when it's not. And so how do you overcome that?
One of the, just to talk for a second about, it's already out there. You've heard this. What's the biggest difference between men and women? Woman tells us a problem, men solve it, and women look at us and say, I didn't want you to solve it, I just wanted you to listen. And our brain goes, then why did you ask a question? Okay, so if you can preface it with, I just want you to listen, and then if we memorize that, well, your emotions are temporary and you are not your emotions. So what we're taught is judge ourselves. We have this little critic on our shoulders that just attacks and attacks and attacks. And so part of emotional mastery is not only taming that judge, but using it to your advantage. And so the mindset, not on an arrogant level, I get asked to speak with you and Eric on stage or a virtual event with 1,000 people. I'm going to over prepare. I'm going to be anxious. However, in my brain, I'm going to say, if I blow it the first 2 minutes, I can still recover. Now, if I blow it for the 30, I'm never going to get asked back, and I blow it and I'll have to recover from that. But I can recover from that. You don't own the speaker marketplace. And this is what bugs me in leadership. Oh, Sabrina, you blew that meeting. I can't promote you. And they're like, what? You're going to ignore 10 months of great performance because I fumbled one meeting?
That's a great point.
In my head, I'm saying, bite me. So
yeah,
the other part
of a great point, because we think that we have to be perfect as speakers, or we have to get a perfect raving review from every single person. And the reality of it is that you can't please every single person there. But if you please the majority of them, that's all you need, because you just need the meeting planner or whoever's booked you whoever's booked you into there that feel like, hey, this person added value. And I think that's really important, because like I know I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? Or I'm an all or nothing person. And so like, if you make a mistake, but I've also learned that like the failures are what actually help me grow faster. Every time I've failed, and I've failed a couple times on the stage where I remember one time I did a speaking engagement. I could not connect with the audience whatsoever. I even had a guy tell me in the middle of the audience that social media was dead. This is beginning of social media. Social media was a fad. It was not, and he happened to be the influencer in the group. And so everyone, like, oh yeah, like I got the whole crowd, and it was like, oh my gosh. And so I said, hey, listen, you know what? Take it or leave it. But if you and I have this conversation 3 years from now, anyone who takes and implements what I'm doing is going to thank me. And the rest of you, maybe you can just wait and see if you can catch up by then. Right. And at that point, I've never been that like snotty in a group or whatever, but I left feeling terrible, because I thought, oh my gosh, I felt like I turned on the audience, because I was like, what is this guy's problem, is really what I was inside is what I was feeling. But and in the moment, you kind of have to like readjust and think about like, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish here? I'm not trying to teach this guy. I'm trying to, but that's the conversation that played in my head over and over and over again as I left. And then to the finally where I was like, yeah, he just doesn't get it. He's not a lead. He's not a client. It's like a lead's not a lead until he's a lead. Right. But anyway, so yeah.
Let me
Go
just
ahead.
add to that. Here's what you did. And I'd like all of you listening or watching, memorize, put Post-it note, whatever your memorization, pivot and ask a question. So if I had that influencer tell me something, or the audience, one person turns on me, it's easy for me to go on the verbal attack. So I take a breath and say, can you tell me more about that thought? Or in what you commented on, Sabrina, which I really love, is you're losing it with the audience. Stop. Hey, you know what? I feel like there's a disconnect here. Where aren't we connecting? What's going on between me, the message I'm trying to share, and you guys? And let people share, and then you can repivot your whole presentation from feedback.
I love that.
And it's feels beforehand like it's hard to do, but if you ask for the feedback, it could even be off-topic stuff. I remember years ago, first time I got asked to go to Mississippi. So I'd never been to Jackson, Mississippi, and driving in, it's the poorest part of Mississippi at the time. 200 people in a communication training. I didn't even get good out. I didn't even get good morning. Good, and a guy raises his hand and I said, yes, sir. And he says, when are you going to get to it?
Oh my
And I
goodness.
said, can you tell me what you're asking about? Because I just wanted to say good morning. And he said, when are you going to address the racism that's rampant at every business here? And I said, wow, great question. Got to admit, you caught me off guard. And I had blue collar, white collar, just unemployed. I had every level of person in the room. So raise your hand. There's a racism problem. And they all raise their hand. Now I'm working for a seminar company. And I said, need a promise from all of you. We're going to put the workbook away and spend the whole part from this part of the morning till noon or 1 on the racism problem. But I need a promise from you that at the end of tomorrow, and I will go over every bullet point in the brochure you were promised, that I don't get 150, he didn't follow the outline. I said, so if you want to talk about it, I'm all in. And I did. They loved it. And I just weaved in the diversity stuff throughout the rest of the communication seminar. And I got glorious reviews. And I got to tell you, I was talking off the top of my head during breaks. I'm texting friends of mine, like, what about this issue? And what do I talk? Because this was right at the beginning of internet. So, in the year 1800. So, no, it was in the late 90s. And, I got feedback, text messages for talk about this. And then one of my friends said, wait a minute, use your psychology degree. You know about differences in people. And I went, oh, and then tie it to communication. And I did. And so the mindset can be know your stuff, pivot, breathe, but people want you to be human. So if you're not super celebrity status, go ahead.
Yeah, I love the fact that you just called it like, hey, you caught me off guard, right? Like the one of the things when I was in sales, I used to say, you just call out the biggest thing that, or like when I worked for a corporation, I almost got fired from every job, I swear, because I'd always push the envelope. But I remember one time I was about ready to I thought I was going to get fired. And instead of just walking in there and being like, hey, what do you want to talk about? I just pulled it immediately and said, hey, let me guess, you want to fire me. And what it does is it just removes it from the room. And so everyone can just actually talk. And instead of like dancing around the giant elephant in the room, we just get it out of the way. And I think as speakers, that's how it can feel. It can feel like we have this giant elephant in the room. And I love the fact that you just addressed it, right? And it really, I think it puts everyone at ease when you do that. Don't you?
Perfect. No, it's even if you are superstar celebrity status, you still have to be relatable. You still have to be relatable. I mean, I'll never forget, we went to see, there was a whole, it was like motivational day or speak or something. And this guy had these seminars all across, success seminars. So Tony Robbins was hosting. We went to Miami and one guy got up. I mean, the whole room's, everybody's doing 40 minutes or whatever. And then Tony comes in between. And then one guy, you could hear hair drop with his message in front of 50,000 people. And Tony just leapt up on the stage and said, oh, what Brian is trying to say is da 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 da. And I think he just misspoke. And then everybody took a breath and he recovered everything. So it's like everybody can have a flub. If you're not relatable and you tie that to arrogance or you telling people what they have to know or believe in, you lose them. If you say, this is what's worked for me, here's the research for thousands, this is what I believe, and then ask questions, your anxiety drops, your confidence boosts, and your brain starts going, hey, you're really good at this, relax. And a little bit of anxiety is okay. So the mindset approach is don't shove it down their throat, don't snap back, but have fun. And if you get cornered and you ask a question and then you make a joke, like I'll never, this happens not frequently, but it used to. That's wrong. You made a mistake. My autoresponder is, oh my God, we're screwed the rest of the day. And the audience goes, what do you mean? I said, that's my first mistake in 60 years. We got to go downhill for all the stuff I haven't done yet. And they laugh. And I say,
I love
thank
it.
you. I got to do an autocorrect. You're right. Let's take another look at this. I got lost in my thoughts. And then you move on.
Yeah, you are awesome, Dr. Brian. I love you, as you know. I wish we had like all day. We don't, unfortunately, but what I would love to do is I'd love for people to be able to continue learning from you. Where would be a good place for people to get a hold of you?
Drive to 29 Pop. No. So just go to my website, Dr. Brian Speaks. Dr. Brian at drbrianspeaks.com is my email. So BRIAN at D like dog, R like Robert, brianspeaks.com. Shoot me an email, mention Speaker Show. I'm going to send you 10 tips on how to lower that anxiety and have the right mindset. And then if you want to connect in any other way, we can, talk about other things that are mindset related or speaker related. Be happy to have a consult with anybody watching the show. So that's Brian at drbrianspeaks.com. And I have to say, Sabrina, I agree with you. I have to check, like, how old am I? Did we know each other when we were 10? But you're so relatable. And I still go over all your old tips that I have saved in the cloud from 10 years ago. So can't thank you enough.
Well, it's such a joy. I talk about relationship building all the time, and it's so important because when I feel so grateful to be connected to you because I think about, in fact, you knew my mom, which was like, because my mom used to run the speaker networking group that you and I were in. And it was just so fun. It's like, it's very few people know my mom, which, so that's like, to me, is just like so special because obviously my mom's not here anymore, but, anyway, I love the relationship building part because your paths will intertwine through your entire career. And really, that's really like speaks volumes about mindset too, because a lot of times I think business owners don't have the mindset, or speakers don't have the mindset of it being a long term or a marathon, right? They think like, oh, well, just right now. That's kind of like the way we kind of get into. But I think as speakers, it's like if you think about your speaking career as a long race, not a short race, that also helps with mindset because you realize like, hey, this isn't going to be my best necessarily, but it's not going to be my worst, and then your best and your worst change throughout the years. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah.
And, it's be my best today might be at level 7 out of 10, might be 4 out of 10. I'm still going to give it my best effort. It's don't give up and, reconnect with people that reach out in the past, even if you felt like you burnt a bridge, it's do it, reconnect and see what happens. So that's why I really resonate with your message. I was so happy you contacted me a few months ago, and same thing, Eric's doing a morning motivational talk for 15 minutes in the morning. I hadn't had contact with him in years. And I'm like, one of my friends goes, oh, I thought you weren't going to listen to that guy. And I said, I never said that. I said, I dropped out of the conversation. I said, but you know what? Sabrina's tips work. Eric's sales tips work. I got to reconnect. I got to make it happen. And that's a reboot of mindset.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you can always reconnect, always reboot,
Eric's genius.
give your best effort.
Eric's stuff, I still use Eric's stuff in my presentation skills. I mean, he is genius. I adore him, obviously. So, well, and I put you right there in that category. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you so much. And I hope everyone goes to Brian, send an email to Brian at drbrianspeaks.com. Make sure you put speaker show in the subject line, and then you're going to get some really great tips from him. So make sure you connect with him. I look forward to seeing you again. And I love, as you know, just playing with you. So I can't wait until we get to do that again. All right.
Thank you so much. And everybody have a great rest of the day, afternoon, or evening. Thank you, Sabrina. You're the best.
So it's interesting, as we look at mindset, right? I love Dr. Brian's tips here because mindset really, there's a lot of things going through our head, right? You land the speaking engagement, and I don't know about you guys, but I will literally just get in my head, and then sometimes my imagination will get away. And I love his tips to go back and remember, like, who you are is uniquely special. and what you have to offer is valuable. And we have to remind ourselves constantly of that, because it does feel like, I know a couple times I gave speaking engagements, I would almost feel like, nervous afterwards, because I started to get in my head like that was dumb, or why'd you say that, or whatever. And that's that critical voice that Dr. Brian was talking about. And we have to get that one under control. Like the emotional control, right, is what we have to control. So I love what he had to say. I can't wait for you guys to meet our next guest. But in the meantime, I look forward to connecting with Dr. Brian again. And I hope you do too. Well, we have another amazing guest, and we're talking about mindset. And I thought this was a really funny thing. I don't know if anyone remembers from Saturday Night Live, Stuart Smalley. He used to say, "I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me." Well, that's a whole mindset, and it's talking about affirmations. And our next guest is phenomenal when it comes to this. She has a degree in kinesiology. She's got her master's in education. So she really knows how to deal with a difficult audience being a teacher. She spent 20 years as a teacher, and she's a CEO of a woman-owned business. And Kate McCauley is a mindset coach who teaches women to manage stress so they can lead happier, healthy lives. And I am so excited to talk with you today. Hi, Kate. How are you doing?
Hi, Sabrina. I'm so excited to be here. I love that intro. Can I take you everywhere I go?
Well, I'd love to go everywhere you go. So, I mean, maybe we got something going on here. I don't
We
know.
might.
Well, I have so many questions. So we've been talking about mindset, and I want to know, what do you think, what exactly is mindset?
So mindset is unique in that it's how we view ourselves and the world that we are in, or the situation that we are in, how we show up in the world. And really, a lot of it comes down to these stories we're telling ourselves. Our brain believes them, whether or not they are true or not. So there are ways to shift your mindset. It's my thing, as you were saying, I'm obsessed with the brain. But to me, simply put, mindset is what we believe and how we show up in the world.
That's really cool. And I love the fact that you talked about mindset is sometimes even the lies we tell ourselves. You know, I think for sure, like, we can be really our own worst critics sometimes when it comes to what we tell ourselves, and that can affect us as speakers. I know that, you know, for me, I definitely have gotten inside my head where I, as a speaker, thought like, you know, I don't know, I just freaked out one time. I remember just completely freaking out and thinking, why did I do this to myself? Why am I getting on the stage? And so that's the kind of stuff I wanted to talk with you about. So how do you think mindset affects us on a personal and a professional level?
So, the reticular activating system, which is the gateway to everything that, we're perceiving and taking in, it controls a lot of things, but really the stories that we tell ourselves continue to float through our brain, and we create habits. We either take action or don't take action. And I think that mindset as a speaker is huge. The cool part about it is you can just start by saying, I am a speaker. Simply by saying that and looking back at some things you're doing, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've been on the biggest of stages. I was a speaker for 20 years as an educator. When I go live on LinkedIn and Instagram, I'm a speaker. And of course, when I'm at all of those events, I am a speaker. And when you step into that confidently and you create those affirmations like you talked about in the beginning, you will then start to believe it, and your brain will look for ways for you to take action so that you can continue to go out into the world. And, I loved hearing you say, I got in my own head. That's exactly what happens. And when we feel nervous, a little trick that I would love to share with you and anybody else who's listening is flip the script. Instead of saying, now, don't get me wrong, of course, I get nervous and, I hope this group likes me. I want to come up as my best self. But instead of focusing on what could go wrong, all the what if things, I flip the script and think, I am so excited to be here. I can't wait to love these people. I can't wait for at least one person to have that aha moment. And it just starts to change the way I show up, and people can feel it. It's a whole vibe that you put out into the world.
I love that. It makes it the audience a lot more friendly, because I think we all envision the audience as, ready to criticize and ready to attack us, when in reality, they're really ready to learn. And you mentioned something about the reticular activator, and can you just explain that a little bit? I know what it is, but I want you
Sure.
to explain it if you don't mind.
No problem. So the reticular activating system, and I call it the RAS for short, it's just easier for everybody, is, as I said, it's the part of the brain in the back of your head. It's like the size of a pencil in the back of your brain here. It works obviously with other areas of the brain, but this is the area where, those thoughts that go through your brain and what you focus on. So if you've heard, what you focus on becomes your reality. The easiest way to think about this is, I'm sure most of your listeners have been in the market for a car at some point or another.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it was a Jeep. And as soon as you start thinking about buying that Jeep, sure enough, you hear ads about it. You see it on TV. You're taking a walk in your neighborhood, and 2 streets over, I didn't realize this person had a Jeep. Oh my goodness. And look, there's a red Jeep driving down the road next to me as I'm heading to work or wherever I'm going. Those Jeeps were always there. But your reticular activating system is now looking for Jeeps because you are telling yourself, I want a Jeep. I want to purchase a Jeep. I'm in the market for a Jeep, whatever the message is. That's the reticular activating system. There's a lot of different ways, when someone says, Sabrina, you turn your head. When I became a mom and I'm in different places as my children are getting older and I hear mom, of course, my children's voices, stand out to me, but occasionally I would catch myself, and that's the reticular activating system at work there.
I love
Your
that.
brain says this
I
is important.
definitely have turned when, knowing full well that was not my kid's voice, but
Right.
because they said mom, I was like, yeah, like.
Exactly. So that's what you can use to shift your mindset to change your life, become a speaker, love where you are instead of focusing on, oh my gosh, what did I do to myself here? You can switch and say, one of my favorite things to say to retrain my brain is, I am the missing piece to every opportunity that presents itself to me. And I didn't believe it at first, Sabrina, but now I sure do. And, when I get on a call or someone says, I know of this event, that floats through my brain, and my brain doesn't know the difference between reality and what I'm telling it. So that's the reticular activating system.
That's super cool. So just if we were to apply that as a speaker, then maybe someone was thinking about getting on a bigger stage, or maybe they've never done like a paid speaking engagement. So how would they use that in order to to accomplish that?
So first, what I was saying in the beginning, just start saying, I am a speaker. And then maybe you want to write some of those things down. Here in my home office, I have a marker board, a long list of affirmations, and one of those is, money flows easily to me. So, and when I get on a call and think, all right, does this person have a budget? Do they want me to do this for free? I start saying, money flows easily to me. I am the missing piece to every opportunity. And then when you start to really focus on those things, it's not that, you can get rid of the fear and push it down, or that you say like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to get paid for this event. But over time, you start to show up differently because your brain believes money flows easily to me. And then even if it's like, you see like, oh, look, I found $1 in this coat, as the seasons are changing, little things like that, you're like, wow, money really does flow easily to me, and changing your view of who you are. When I first started speaking, I would tell people, well, I'm a teacher, but really I was a speaker for 20 years. And to be honest, as you said in the beginning, not everyone even wanted to hear my voice. So now when I go out and people clap and say like, we love you, I'm like, this is amazing. This is what I do now. So you can use those things. And when you do get the free gig, go for that low hanging fruit, the free gig, maybe something where someone else will be like, I'm bigger scale than that. Take those and use those to your advantage to say, I was here at this event and I was able to speak to whoever the audience is or however many people, and use that as leverage to say, I would love to come and talk to your group of people, or, do you know anyone who needs someone to speak on mindset, or whatever the topic might be.
I love this. So let's talk about the female speaker. I mean, I saw this. We always have a little guest intake form, and I loved what you wrote in there about I mean, I didn't love the fact, but you were talking about how female speakers are really underrepresented as keynote speakers, and how can we use mindset, or what do you think would be some solutions on how a woman speaker could maybe overcome some of these challenges?
Well, first off, I think we need to support each other. I think that it is very important. When I was on a call last week for an event that I'm going to be at as a workshop leader and probably a keynote as well, kind of a lot of different stuff going on at this event. But at the end of the call, the person said to me, "Do you know anyone else?" And immediately I started to think of a group that I'm connected with who are all my speaker sisters, within that group. And I want to get them on stages. I want to refer them, not because, I'm looking to get, a kickback from them. Obviously, that's nice when that happens, but because I want to see more women out there. We bring a lot to the table. And I think that sometimes we have to work harder to prove that because, it's just kind of the way of the world. We've visualized, a man being up there as the leadership role. I do like that things are starting to change, but when someone says to me, "Who do you know?" immediately I will look for a woman speaker. This doesn't mean that the men aren't great speakers, but I just know that we're not always the first choice. So I think also standing in your power and saying, look at what I'm doing here. Look at what I have done to change my life. And, owning all of those things instead of trying to just say, well, how can I best help you? Putting on that hat that I wear too as a mom and a woman sometimes. I also stand confidently when I get on, I'm in a speaker network, a different group where people refer each other, men and women, and I own it. I come there and I say, people like my energy. This is what I bring. Instead of trying to say, well, this is why, and I list all the things, I just straight out say it because I've been paying attention to the men and they just straight out say it and ask for it. So I do that now, I don't try to say like, these are all the reasons why. I step into it saying, I'm not for everyone, but this is what I bring to the table. So
I love that. I love the direct approach.
mm-hmm.
And I think as women, sometimes we feel like we have to be that feminine side, the softer side,
Right.
or otherwise we come off pushy or bossy or whatever labels people have put on it. But the reality of it is that's the way men like to be communicated to. So if that's the way it is, then we should communicate like that.
every time I have shown up as my true authentic self in those situations, especially in this, it's a Zoom and people are all over the world. Every single time there is men and women on that call who message me on LinkedIn, send me emails and say, I want to refer you because I know when someone hears you, then they'll say who, and it's this snowball effect. And it's because I showed up as my true self,
Yeah, I
and
love that.
some people say, oh, you're aggressive. Yes, I am. I'm not for everyone, but if you want someone who's going to keep it real, I'm from outside of Philadelphia, and that, maybe is part of who I am. But I think that people connect.
Is that your? I loved reading that. I told Kate this before we got on to the podcast, and I said to her, "Wow!" I did not realize that you were a full contact kickboxer in college, and I thought, "Wow, that's so cool."
Right.
Sometimes we do, like in business, we kind of have to be that full contact kickboxer, right? Because otherwise you don't get the opportunity. And for me, I've always just been really persistent. I know that, like, that's how I ended up on some of the biggest stages where I literally sat back and was like, how'd I end up here? Or someone asked me one time, how'd you do that? And I had to stop and think. And I'm like, I'm just really persistent. I wouldn't take no for an answer. And it's like, and it wasn't that I was like, pick me. But I was more like, hey, I'm still available. I'd love to speak. I noticed that you don't have this speaker. This is what I bring that's totally different. I guarantee that, those are the words I love using,
Sure.
like, because no one has a guarantee anymore. It's like, they're like, well, I think I could do this for you. No, I guarantee that I'm going to wow your audience. They're going to walk away feeling like they have value and that they're going to be completely and utterly grateful that you had me come to their program, whatever. It's like, I know, like with media with media training, they talk about the 3 points that you always want to have in your wheelhouse, right? The 3 things that, like, even if the subject gets way off base, you always come back to those 3 points. And I love that because that's the way, if we speak in sound bites to people, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see how this person would
Sure.
fit, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
it takes a mindset to do that. You have to have the mindset to say, yeah, you know what, I might get rejected, or I might not. I mean, I think would you say that it was like the number one reason why speakers probably don't get as many speaking opportunities, because they're just not
Mm.
asking, right?
Sure. If you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Yeah, that's
Right.
really good.
And
Good.
I got to tell you, as I'm listening to you talk, there's been times, especially early on when I left my career as an educator and started this business, coaching, workshop facilitating, being a speaker, where I would pitch myself or, apply for, something that I saw through referrals or different places. And then when I didn't get it or I didn't hear anything, I started to take it personal. And I changed that recently. And it doesn't mean that I love getting a no. But what it means is, my mantra for that is, it's simply business. And I connect it that way because they're not, saying, we don't necessarily love you, Kate. I just wasn't the good fit, and this is just business. And I've been able to shift over time. My talent coordinator was so excited for something a couple months ago, and she called me disappointed and said, you lost to a celebrity who, might I add, is probably one of the biggest celebrities that I would think of as a speaker. So she was very upset about it, because she's working hard. I wasn't happy that I lost this speaking engagement, but I immediately thought, it's just business. Also, my name was next to that, other
That's
person
cool.
who's the celebrity. So they don't necessarily know Kate McCauley yet, but they will. So I try to flip that with that mindset flip of, why didn't I get this gig kind of thing too.
I really like that. When I was with years ago, I got an opportunity to work with Mark Victor Hansen. This is before they even launched their Chicken Soup for the Soul books.
Mm-hmm.
It was right about that level. So years ago, right? One of the things I remember him saying is that he said he always made sure he had knocked on 10 doors a day, because he knew 1 out of 10 would say yes. So every time he'd get a no, he'd go, all right, I'm one more door closer, and I
Right. There you
I
go.
love that mindset. And, it's
Mm-hmm.
like he was just a go-getter, man. He just would go and knock on all these doors, and he got
Right.
rejected a lot, but it was always that one person that would hire
I
him.
do believe too, speaking of knocking on the next door, if not this, something better. And that
Ooh.
has really happened for me in my, role as CEO, as a speaker, that sometimes I don't get something that I thought I would be awesome at this. Why wouldn't they bring me, and I start in the beginning, I would be like, I can't believe it. And I would focus on that. But now, in addition to that, it's just business. If not this, something better. And sure enough, I let myself to be open to that. And then I think, oh, well, here it is.
That
And it's
actually
not
happened to
immediate.
me. I got passed over for the world's greatest marketing event with Tiara Harbecker, and
Okay.
they never reveal who's the speaker. And a friend of mine happened to go, and I said, "Well, who did the membership training?" And she said, "Jay Abraham." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I can't compete with Jay Abraham. I mean, he's like
Right.
my mentor. I adore him, right? Like,
Sure.
so grateful." But like you, I wish I would have had your scripting then, because I could have been like, "Man, my hat was in the ring." But the
It
next
took
time,
time. It took
yeah,
time. That was a mindset shift. In the beginning, there was a lot of tears. Do not be fooled. There was a
yeah.
lot of tears thinking,
Well,
did
you do.
I
You
do the
feel
right thing?
rejected. You feel like, well, who am I? And you start
Right.
going into the like, well, I haven't earned my stripes yet.
Exactly.
But even with that speaking engagement, I mean, the next time they called me, they said, hey, we want you to come speak on membership websites. And I thought I was competing against Jay Abraham still. And I said to them, hey, look, I can't compete with Jay Abraham. He's my mentor. I love him.
Right.
You should have him, is what I said, like, he's the right choice. And they, no, he's not available. We're asking you to come. And I was like, what?
You're
Oh,
like, oh, okay.
okay. Okay. Well, I got some pretty big shoes to follow. So let's see how we can do this.
But what a compliment for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It was pretty.
That they wanted you to come do that. So I
But
think,
persistence, because I was persistent. I was
yes,
persistent. I was persistent. I kept asking and asking and asking. And even the very first time, because, it wasn't really clear if I was, they didn't give me a clear no, which was kind of funny the first time.
right.
Even like 2 weeks before, I said, hey, I'm sitting here. I got my suit pressed, my shirt ironed, my hair's, done, my nails done, whatever. Like, I made this long list. I said, I'm ready. So just send me it,
I love it.
yeah. So and I didn't get sent in, obviously, but then later I did. And I thought, well, maybe that persistence, those were just contacts. Cause, I talk about I love this whole concept of networking with other women speakers and or speakers in general. I love the networking thing, and I love the relationship building. And I liked your point too about how we recommend people not because we're trying to get something out of it, that we're just doing it because we want to see the betterment of everybody, right? Like that's a giving thing. That's and the law of reciprocity says that you can't give to someone without it coming back to you somewhere else. Maybe not from them, but so I love that. I mean, it's so important, I think, for us, especially as women. I mean, we are underrepresented on many stages. In fact, when I was at TR Becker, the craziest thing happened before. I've never had a standing ovation before I spoke. And it literally went on, I'm not kidding you, for probably 5 or 6 minutes. And to the point where I just started laughing because I'm like, what is happening? Like, am I getting
good though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought I was getting pumped or something but what would happen was after 3 days, I was the only woman speaker after 3 days. And so they were just so, and literally I got mobbed afterwards saying like, oh my gosh, we were so excited to have a woman. Men and women were saying that. Right. And I thought, wow, that's so cool. Like, thank you for doing that for me, like letting me be the only woman speaker at a 3-day event, like that was pretty neat. Well, anyway, all right, so I'm off on a tangent, of course, but I wanted to talk about mindset. Like, what do you think is the one thing that would, and I know we've talked about a lot of points, but what would be the one thing you would recommend to a speaker, maybe a speaker that's just coming into the speaking realm? What's the one thing that they can do to actually help shift their mindset and really go after what they want?
Just start doing it, and do it whatever feels good for you. As you start, you will get better. You'll look back and think, well, that was kind of messy, but you started. If it's Instagram Live, if it's, going on podcasts, because this is a speaking, forum where we get to chat and just get comfortable in that arena of talking. So just start, and don't wait, for results for you to take action to tell other people I'm a speaker. Just simply start and then say, I'm a speaker. Because once you put that out into the world, there are people waiting for you. And it's kind of selfish of you not to start. So
I love that.
Yeah, get going, get started.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, I love all your points here. I want to know, how can people get in touch with you? Like, what would be a great way for them to contact you?
So probably my website is the best way to get a hold of me. I do have a talent coordinator who books for me. Her contact information, we can find all that on the website there. And then my favorite place to just put some random little like pep talks and, check this out kind of stuff is Instagram. So that's another place where people sometimes follow along. And I am not trying to be an influencer. Quite honestly, I don't have time for that. But I am trying to, make an impact and have people think a little bit. And I get to share there a lot, like if I'm on a podcast or I'm at an event, I share some of those things because, as I told you on the call, before every time I do something, before, during, after, I gain. There was something you said today about the kickboxing, and I started thinking that actually could be a keynote.
I would think, oh yeah.
Yeah, so I always gain from every interaction I have with people, and I love to share that on Instagram. That just happens to be, for me, the easiest platform to pop into my story. So if you connect with me on my website, on Instagram, make sure you tell me where. If you said, I saw you and Sabrina, I listened to you guys chat, then I will know that our vibe is aligned because I'm here with her. So I'd love to know that part too when they do, follow along.
Well, I went obviously on your website before we got on, and I noticed that you have this really cool opportunity to have like a breakthrough with you, like a breakthrough session. And I would really encourage everybody to get in touch with you, because that mindset, it can make or break you, literally. Like, if you don't have the right mindset in business. And one of the things I noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong here, just after doing business for over 20 years, I've noticed that I have the same pattern of behavior that keeps, like I'll reach a certain plateau and then it seems like things, something happens and it's like I have a little like a block almost, and
That's the reticular activating system at
yeah.
work there, Sabrina. So on that mindset breakthrough call, it's a lot of times for coaching clients, but also people who book me for workshops and speaking engagements jump on there. Sometimes they get a mindset breakthrough for themselves and they say, how can we do this for, all of my team, and then we collaborate and figure that out. But yes, definitely jump on that call with me. I love chatting. I just had a woman on last night and she emailed me this morning and I give a little homework thing at the end. And she literally said to me, are you a witch doctor? How did you do that in my brain? Because I am obsessed with the brain and mindset and I want other people to be able to do that because you do deserve to be happier and healthier and successful. And, and sometimes people, when they get on there and they book it for their team, a speaking engagement or a workshop, they're telling me, I know that all of my team members can't afford to, have coaching, but I want them to get this mindset and I want them to have it too. So yeah, jump on, let's chat.
I really love it. One of the things as you were talking, it made me, gosh, you made my brain really go into awesome
It
places
happens.
here today. I really appreciate it. Yeah. One of the things I was thinking about was a friend of mine used to say, what you resist persists and
I
what
like
you
it.
ignore goes away. And it made me think of the reticular activator because, oftentimes like, we'll be like, wow, I did, oh, this is what something happened to me. We were talking about this earlier. I got done speaking and I was like, God, that was terrible. Like, and then like the more I replayed one little negative thing over and over and over and over,
Yeah.
and that's the only thing I saw.
That's
And
the
then
doom loop. You were in the doom loop
yes, I
where
was like, I'm a terrible speaker. What was I doing? I knew better to get on that stage. That I was really beat like boo, 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 just really kickboxing
Mhm.
myself, I think, at that point. But
Right.
what I failed to see was, once all the feedback forms came back, it was like just rave reviews, of course. So it
Right.
was the opposite of what I was even telling myself. And I think now I just try to, I know I was in sales forever. And so in sales, you have to be positive and you have to accept rejection. And I think the
Sure.
biggest lesson I learned was every time I get done with a speaking engagement or anything for that matter, client, project, whatever, I always say, what were the 3 things that I did really, really, really well? And what was the one thing that maybe I could try to work on for the next time?
Sure. Yeah. I
Because
mean,
if
I
you have a
love
whole
the
list of
feedback.
horrible, and as a speaker, there's always something, like, oh, next time I think I'm going to leave that story out, or this
Right.
time I'm going to I noticed the audience was really gravitating to this story. I think I'll go deeper into detail or
Sure. I mean, the
whatever,
teacher in me, this happened to you your whole life. You probably didn't even realize that you were receiving constructive criticism. As an educator, I would do that for my students, and I always did it for myself. I ran events. It's funny now when people run events, I sometimes want to say, "Do you need help, or what can I do here?" Because I ran big events
Yes.
within my school district. So, and sometimes it was just like, you're going to do this, so I had to figure it out as I went. But I always asked, what went well? Of course, first I was thanking everyone because I'm always grateful for, the experience, good, bad, or in between. But to ask people what went well, and please tell me, what do you think would be better? Not, and I'm not going to be offended. I want to make this the best possible experience for everyone, and I think that's something that maybe as an educator, I always just thought this is what we should do to help people get better. So I like it. I love the positive feedback, but I really do appreciate when someone says to me, I didn't really like that part
Me
that much.
too.
And they usually say it in a way that is so kind, like, it was okay, but, and I'm like, thank you, because now I'll take that out or I'll add this in, So I appreciate the feedback in all areas of my life, really.
I do too. I do too. Well, I'm so excited that we got a chance to talk. You are fabulous. And I would love to have you back on. I know that you and I are talking about how many podcasts are you doing? You said one a week?
So once a week, I'm on a
Woo!
podcast. I'm on a podcast tour. Some weeks I'm on 2 or 3. If it just aligns,
Woo!
if a guest reach out to me, I will say I'm a little picky now. Although it doesn't have to be a big show, but if someone says to me, I can only do it this day, and I look and say, wow, I really love the vibe of that show. I try to make that work for them. But I now have people reaching out to me, so we're going to talk about that at another point. So
Yeah,
how
I want to have you on to talk
yeah,
about just how do you become a podcast guest?
right.
What are the do's and don'ts? And I would love that. So thank you, Kate, for being here. You are awesome. I just adore you. I'm excited to keep our relationship going. I'm always grateful for the show because I don't know that you and I would have necessarily, I'm sure, I mean, there's just so many amazing people out there, right? But sometimes it's hard to connect. So I'm really grateful that we got to connect for this reason. And
I feel the same. It's massive
Yeah.
amounts of gratitude to you. I'm really serious that I'm thinking already about that kickboxing connection with life. So I appreciate you for that. And I cannot wait to talk with you again.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I'm just going to pop up your website again. And then again, how do they find you on Instagram?
So it is Kate _McCauley, MCCAULEY _XO. I end everything with love and brilliance. So, when I'm on a reel or something, I like to love everyone and I want to give you a little bit of wisdom. So love and brilliance is always at the end. So it's Kate _McCauley _XO. And that's how
XO. Gotcha.
Yes.
Like hugs and kisses?
Hugs and kisses.
I don't know which one is which, but
I don't either, but it seemed to go with my love and brilliance vibe.
Watching can see it. And then anyone listening, it's Kate, KATE _ M as in Mary, CCAULEY, and then _XO, and that's on Instagram. So please connect with her. She's amazing. All right. Well, I'll talk with you when I always say I'll see you on the flip side.
Love it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Wow. These guests are amazing. I definitely feel like my mind got shifted today, which is so cool. And I'm going to start saying, I am a speaker. I'm good enough. I'm, like Stuart Smalley says, I'm good enough, and doggone it, people love me or like me. So we're going to end the show. And I want to say, if you love the show, if you want to be on the show, if you have a comment or a suggestion for the show, please visit us on our website. It's speakershowandtell.com. If you want to be a guest or panelist, you just click the Get Involved. If you just want to be an audience member, we love that too. Just click on that Get Involved button, and there's 4 options for you on how you can get involved with the show. If you happen to be on any of the social media channels, we'd love for you to just hashtag Speaker Show and Tell, and be sure to tell us what you loved about the show. Tell us what little nugget you got or any suggestions you have. We'd love that too. So we're super excited for you to be here. We can't wait to come back, and hopefully Eric, I keep saying we because Eric's normally here with me. Eric Lofholm will be with me next time. And we're excited to have you guys participate in our show. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you on the next show. Yay!
You've been listening to Speaker Show and Tell. Eric and Sabrina have spoken on all types of stages and have easily done over 2,000 speaking engagements. They understand the strategy, the sales, and the marketing of the speaking business. Plus, they have on the pros that have done it, pros that have gone through the same struggles as you and created massive results. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope you've gotten something from it. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, find us on social media at Speaker Show and Tell. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you next time on Speaker Show and Tell.